So things change a little bit when this is not your first time offense. What I will say right up front is that, again, generally speaking, you're still very unlikely to have to serve any real jail time on a second or even on a third DWI. Now, there's a big difference between a second and a third DWI, and it comes down to whether or not your prior arrests for DWI actually turned into a conviction or not. If you were somehow able to avoid a conviction on your prior DWIs, then your second and third arrest for DWIs aren't necessarily enhanced. They may still look like a first for the purposes of a plea bargain and for the purposes of what you're being charged with. So in Texas, if you have one prior conviction for DWI, the next time you're arrested for DWI, regardless of how long ago your first one was, is automatically enhanced from a Class B, which would have been what you were charged with for your first, up to a Class A misdemeanor, which is the highest level misdemeanor, and it's just a step below a felony. It is punishable up to a year in jail. Now, the truth is, like I said, you're very unlikely to be required to serve any jail time on a second offense DWI, even with a prior conviction on your record. 90% of these types of cases that I see come through our office, we are able to successfully negotiate some form of probation or some alternative like a pretrial diversion program. Sometimes we're even able to convince the prosecutors to offer us a reduction from a Class A back down to a Class B, which would mean that on your record, you still only have a Class B because that's what your first one would have been. But again, long story short, realistically speaking, no, I don't expect you to end up having to do any real jail time, even for your second DWI. Now, if you've had 2 prior convictions for DWI and you are now being arrested for your third DWI, it will automatically be enhanced to a felony. This is when things get kind of dicey. Felonies are taken much more seriously than misdemeanors. And depending on the county, you could be looking at jail time. It depends, though, a lot on how recent your last 2 DWIs were. So if we're talking about a situation where you got arrested for your first one within the last 5 years, and then you got arrested for your second one within the last 2 or 3 years, and now you're showing a pattern where every couple of years you're getting arrested for the same offense, that shows the state, the prosecutors, and the court that you haven't learned your lesson and that you probably need a stronger hand when dealing with you this third time. I would say that other than the situations like that where you're getting arrested for one after the other in consecutive years, as long as they're spread out for more than a couple of years at a time, we can usually keep you from doing any jail time, even on a felony DWI third.